Well, we're continuing with the month of love, and this is the final episode. This is the last week of February, so we're kind of summing things up, as it were. You know, we talked about the healing of hurt, forming relationships. Nancy talked about what was her talk? It's ain't nothing like the real thing, baby, right? Ain't nothing. Can't do it. Copyrights. Okay. So now we're summing things up, and I'm talking about moving from surviving to thriving in your life. And you can equate this to love or anything in your life, but we were not sent here to just get by. Although we've all struggled with that at times. You didn't get here and just get handed everything. Even if you were handed everything, things can be interesting. So Dr. Michael Beckwith says, and let me give my precursor. I did use parts of Steve Hartzell's from www.sermoncentral.com, just so we know where some of this information came from. I have to give that right up front. But Dr. Michael Beckwith said, you can't be a light to the world if you can't pay your light bill. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're struggling to make those basic, some of the basic things, it's hard to, from your overflow, have that energy. You know what I'm saying? Which brings me to a story about a young man who had worked for years on the railroad and wanted a job as a signalman for the railroad. For his interview, he was told to meet the inspector at the signal box. And the inspector asked him, what would you do if you realized that two trains were heading toward each other on the same track? The young man said, well, that's easy. I would switch the points of one of the trains, meaning he would switch it to another track so it wouldn't hit head on. The inspector then asked, what if the lever broke? The young man said, then I'd jump down out of the signal box and I'd use the manual lever over there. Next, the inspector said, what if the lever had been struck by lightning and didn't move? The young man said, then I would run to the signal box and phone the next signal box to let them know what was happening so they could switch the train. The inspector continued, what if the phone was busy? This is a job interview. You have to go through every conceivable situation. The young man said, well, in that case, I would rush down out of the signal box and use the public emergency phone on the crossing over there. And then the inspector said, what would you do if the public emergency phone had been vandalized? The young man said, oh, well, then I'd run into town and get my uncle. The answer puzzled the inspector. So he asked, why would you go get your uncle? And the young man answered, well, that's simple, because he's never seen a train wreck before. Too many of us feel that we are headed towards a crash in our lives at times. Have you ever felt like you were inevitably moving in a direction that wasn't your highest and best good? We've all felt like that. Life feels at times like two trains headed directly towards each other, and they may feel that there's nothing that we can do to stop it. But I'll tell you now, there is something you can do. Your life is not going off the rails on a crazy train. I had to weed that in there somehow. It may feel like that, but that's when we need to move forward. If we feel like we're partly on track, we're at least halfway there. Now, I've felt at times when I'm fully off the track. You ever felt like this? Could that be how you're feeling today? Well, I'm not sure, but maybe you feel if you've gotten off track, and maybe you feel that something is missing in your life and you just don't know what it is. You just don't feel fully orbed, as it were. So if you don't hear anything else I say today, I want to tell you this. Listen very carefully, and this is for you advanced students. You know who you are. There is hope. There is hope for each one of us. There is an answer. There is a way. No matter what you are feeling you are coming up against in your life, there is always a way. Love will show you that way. If we get into hurt and hate and anger, that keeps us from the answer. And so often we are put on the wrong track by that energy, where something comes up and automatically we go to a negative, because sometimes that's been the way that we handled things. And when that's the way that your parents or your teachers handled things, sometimes it's easy to go down that track. It's familiar. But you need to install a new track. Let me say it again. There is hope. There is an answer. There is always a way. It doesn't matter how dark or how challenging you think it is. Life doesn't put us here without an answer, without a way. And maybe that is the very thing, maybe that is the very reason why you have been put here. Because it is through our darkest situations, when we have found a way, that we have turned our life around. So where do you find the answer? Where do you turn? You know, and life says, go out there and find it. It's out there. And you go out there, and everything out there says, go within. Go within. The answer is within you. But that's part of our road less traveled. That's part of our experience, is to experience what is out there so that it can redirect us back into ourselves. That's the whole trip all of us are on, okay? Is to move back into ourselves. So, how do you stop the crash? Now, while there's an answer, we will not discover the hope we are looking for by reading our horoscope. There may be clues by calling a psychic hotline. You know, I always wondered, why they weren't calling me if they knew I was having problems. You know what I mean? I mean, why do I have to call them? They should know who's got the problem if they're so psychic, right? But you know what I mean. So many people find themselves wandering aimlessly through life. They're lost, confused, and they're going through a maze of their own making to find the way back to themselves. And you may say, I did not create this maze. But it is only when we realize that there is no maze that we are amazed by the power we have within ourselves. So maybe you may have felt like you were headed towards something challenging. You can change it. You can turn yourself around. You can return. As they say in the big book, you repent. I know what repent means. It means go in a different direction. Repent of your missing the mark. Just means where you are seeking it, there is not the answer you are looking for. But maybe you had to seek it there to find that it's not there. As my father used to say, you're going to a bank asking for 50-cent pieces and they don't have them. Go to a different bank. Look elsewhere for the answer. You're barking up the wrong tree. But we sit there and bark and bark and bark. We have other people come into our lives. We give them our phone numbers and we bark up the wrong tree, not knowing that it is not out there. It's all in here. It's within you. You stepped over the answer looking for it in the external when it is always an internal. That's what quantum physics teaches. There's no out there. It's all in here. happening at the same time and collapsed into this moment because you believe that it's happening. So where's your belief? So I've got 3 ideas that I've come up with. How can you move beyond merely surviving to striving? First, capitalize on the opportunities that God has already given you. Here's a success story that got my attention. Y'all know Levi Strauss, right? You may not know the story of Levi Strauss. I mean, I thought Levi's were just a pair of pants, right? So, in the 1840s and 50s, Levi Strauss went to California in hopes of finding gold, making his fortune. He did not make his fortune in gold, but he made it in another way that brought him more fame and fortune than gold could have. Strauss left home with a load of heavy canvas fabric, and Strauss planned to sell his fabric for tents and wagon covers. Then Strauss set up his place of business, and the first miner came in and said, "You should have brought pants." He said, "What?" Right? That's a weird question, right? You should have brought pants. So the miner explained to Strauss that there were no pants strong enough to endure the mining operation. What they were putting their pants through, and they were wearing cloth pants, were tearing and becoming saturated and not, making it through. So what did Levi do? He immediately took the heavy canvas fabric and he brought it with him and made the miner a pair of pants. And within days, Levi struck gold. So again, it wasn't the bright, shiny gold bars that he thought, but everybody wanted him to make them a pair of pants. So he, to this day, Levi's are, the best jeans around, right? Depending on, what your style is. I know there are others that have gone beyond the Levi, but this was back in the late 1800s where, clothes were a whole different scene. So, secondly, let me introduce this idea of minimizing the negatives that clatter around in your mind and your life. We need to remove any naysayers. And you are the first naysayer. You must remove your own no. We self-doubt before anyone else doubts us. And that's when we start asking people, hey, what do you think of this idea? Right? We need to know that the ideas that have come to us are God-given and that there is a way. Here's a hint or a clue on how to thrive in love and in life. Don't share your vision with people who don't support you 100%. Don't share your ideas with people who will say no. That's not going to happen for you. Because you may buy into their idea of their no. You must believe in yourself so strongly that it doesn't matter who comes and goes in your life that tells you no. You are complete, whole, and perfect. Surround yourself with people who believe in your thriving in life. Call a practitioner. Fill out a prayer request saying, I choose to thrive. Please know this for me when I might forget it for myself. That's a powerful prayer request, right? Because you already know it. And that's what practitioners do, is we know for people who have forgotten who they are. That's all the practitioner does, is we know when you cannot see the forest through the trees, that you are looking at the forest. We know your truth with and for you. So, I invite you all to borrow my belief. I know who you are, and I believe in every single one of you to thrive. You are here as a child of the infinite power that created all that is, to thrive, to not just get by. Getting by may be a starting point, but don't just write a book, write a bestseller. You know what I'm saying? And maybe it's not the bestseller out there, but if it's your bestseller, does it matter? Do you know what I'm saying? So borrow my belief. Robert Fulton invented the steamboat, and when he first presented his invention, he had plenty of critics crowded on the riverbanks, and the critics yelled, "It'll never start, it'll never start." Fulton proved them wrong, and after a lot of clanking and groaning, the steamboat started up and started moving down the river. The critics were quieted for a moment, and then they started yelling, "It'll never stop, it'll never stop." How quickly it is, how easily we can criticize, we could see something and say something about it. So listen to me. We must never try to please those that criticize us. It's just not going to work. We've been searching for our parents' approval or our teacher's approval or fill in the blank, your spouse, a friend, or something. It's simple. We'll never be able to make those people happy who are not looking for their own happiness. That's not our job. But we get caught up in the effect of that. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be criticized and criticized often. That's part of what we do. I have an opinion, and you're welcome to it. Are you going to be criticized, or are you going to allow their criticizing to fuel your desire to be, do, and have what you choose? That's a positive use of being criticized. Now, there may be some truth in what they're saying, and you may look at certain aspects of it to fully orb your idea, refine it, but if you believe in it, it doesn't matter who else does or does not. But again, surround yourself with people who will cheerlead you and go, "You know what? Absolutely, I see that for you. Absolutely, I know you can do it." And if you can't find anybody to do that, like I said, fill out a prayer request. We will know that for you. But if you can't even get it from that, just know it for yourself. That's all you need. Just know it for yourself. Finally, to move from just surviving to thriving, we must learn to exercise the faith that's available to us. The faith of a mustard seed. The smallest, almost invisible faith. We must know that we have it. Go forth. Your faith has healed you. All you need is the belief in yourself. Take your ideas and start manifesting them in the world. Believe in the power of God to do things in your life that you may not know that you can do for yourself right now. There was a time that I didn't think I could get through one more day because I was trying to do it myself. And once I linked my energy with the power that created me, and I realized that fountain of spiritual energy was unlimited. Nothing could harm the calm peace of my soul in my belief. And it's true for each one of us. And we're only one prayer, belief, mouse click away from it. Only one. It only takes one prayer to have a miracle. Just one. You may be one prayer away from your miracle. Don't stop before the miracle happens, right? I've heard it said, don't leave before the miracle shows up. You must stick around for it. And some days are better than others, aren't they? But it is those challenging days that has given us strength to carry on. Through prayer, we have the privilege of exercising our faith. Don't worry about anything. Pray about everything. What is worry? It's the negative use of positive energy. If we worry, if worrying could have solved anything, I would have ascended already. You know what I'm saying? We have all worried. You know, and some people say, well, I don't worry. I don't have an imagination. I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, just know that when you're thinking of something that can't be, you can use that same energy for what you can be. Just turn it around. And I've installed into myself over years of metaphysical teaching, and I've installed a metaphysical filter that when I see something that looks negative, I see it positively. I see that person who is asking for money as rich in spirit. I see that situation as resolved already. And imagine life if you're looking at things that way, where everything is a solution, not a challenge. And your whole life can take on a whole different energetic. But it takes training. It takes work. It is lazy to constantly think of negative things. It takes work. And I had to brainwash myself. Absolutely. I needed a good wash, rinse, and repeat. You know, I had to record myself saying positive affirmations to myself. I recorded a little half-hour tape. It's back, you know, it's dating me. When they had cassettes. And I'd play that right before I go to bed every night. Half an hour until I'd fall asleep, hearing my own voice saying, you're a success, you can do this, you're abundant. And I go, Steve, you know, to wake myself up, Steve. But try it. You know, y'all have phones, they have recording apps. Record yourself and listen to yourself affirming for yourself what you choose to be, do, and have. It's a magical effect on yourself. So in conclusion, number one, capitalize on the opportunities God has already provided for you. You are an awesome individual power of the universe, individualized. And you carry with you all that the Maker, all that the Creator has. You have the power of creation within you. Utilize it, find it, do some visioning, do some prayer, do some mind mapping, whatever you can think of, because there are geniuses everywhere. There are geniuses right here in this room, and I know who you are. Number two, minimize the negatives that clatter around in our lives and in our consciousness. Number one, your self-defeating talk needs to be the first thing you deal with. And this is why I brainwashed myself to go, you can do it. You are powerful. You are a genius. You are a genius. Just say that right now. You are a genius. Well, thank you. Well, thank you. Okay, let's do it again. That was for myself, right? Thank you. I am a genius. Once again, I am a genius. I know that for you. And if you forget it, fill out a prayer request and we'll know it for you. Just put on there, know that I'm a genius. Okay, number three, exercise the faith that is available to you. You are thriving in love right now. Love is the energy in which we move and live and have our being within. This is the energetic of what we are. When we don't feel that we are in love, it means that we have forgotten who we are. And it's okay. Part of the trip here is to forget. But we need to remember. We all wake up at some point. So let me shake you awake. Wake up! It's time. Why is it happening now? Because it's now. Whatever happened before brought you to this moment. Thank it. Give great thanks for whatever it was. No matter what you think about it, because it brought you here. And walk on knowing that you and the energy that created you are one and the same. And so it is. And so it is. Well, it's time for us to follow our teaching now, and let's go within and remember who we are. So if you'd like to close your eyes, if that's comfortable for you, let's go ahead and take the lights down a little bit. Or if you'd like to take a soft focus on the flowers or the candles, whatever takes you deeper, let's go there now and remember the energy of creation. You can call it Jesus, Christ consciousness, goddess energy, great source, great spirit. Whatever works for you, that's your business. But we can agree that there is a power. That power that causes the sun to shine, that radiates all the time. That energy that allows the waves to crash on the beach and allows the tides to go up and down with the movement of this universe. Something is doing that. Just like something is breathing our body, beating our heart, and allowing us to move in this world of form. And as we attach our desires to that same power that breathes us, and as we know that something wonderful is happening by means of each one of us, I proclaim each one of us a divine energy. Each one of us is part of God in form. There's not a single one of us that is all that God is, but all of us are God in form, a cell in the body of God. And as we move into that energy of being part of the divine makeup of the universe, I speak a word for anyone, anywhere who has asked for prayer. I may not know you or what your desire is, but I know God does. So I activate that power right here and right now if you're open to that. Activating the miraculous energy that may have been laying dormant within you and activating it in a way that allows you to know in an identifiable way that makes sense to you, that is love in form and harms no one, that love is happening as each one of us. And as we tap into that love, as we activate the love of God, our life begins to reflect the love of the universe. How good it is to know that something wonderful is happening because each one of us is here, and that is truly the reason for us being. So I give great thanks right here and right now for the truckloads of good that are happening for each one of us in our lives right here and right now, because something wonderful is happening. And as we turn our attention to the wonderfulness, we turn away from the challenge, not to deny it, but not to give it any more power, for energy flows where our attention goes. And as our attention is focused on love, love is always the result. So I thank that energy of love, the energy of creation, and whatever you believe you choose to call it, we thank it in advance for the wonderfulness of each one of our lives. And we release it. We completely let go, holding on to nothing, releasing it completely into that living, loving law of mind where it is filled to overflowing with creative ideas, answers, healings, and the divine consciousness of the universe expands as who and what we are. How good it is to know this truth, to walk on in this world of form in a way that makes sense, loves everyone, and allows us to know who we are, as we affirm it together by saying, and so it is. Amen. Whew. Okay. Come on back, everybody. Come on back. We're all right here. Okay.